G'day, listeners. This episode is proudly brought to you by our major sponsor, supshq.com.au. Use code BENS15 at checkout to receive 15% off on your next purchase. What is going on, listeners, ladies and gentlemen, on Spotify, YouTube, whatever podcast platform you are getting this from? Not sure yet exactly we're going to be putting these, but hope you are having a fantastic week. This is our last episode for the week, so hopefully you are having a great one as we are. Now, this episode, we are going to just be looking at a very simple update, keep you all up to date with training prep, business progression, things that's going on, kind of give you the behind the scenes look on everything that's happening. We don't want to keep any doors or boundaries up. We want to be as open as possible, obviously to a degree of limitation, and give you the inside look at what's going on with business this week. So this week has been another big week for us. We had our first ever live client education webinar. So one of the greatest things that we are proud of when it comes to our coaching system and our coaching service is education and community. Now, what makes us a bit different, I feel, is that we try to include as much content and education as possible to our clients to make sure they're getting the most out of or most value out of their coaching experience. To know that they're walking away with more than they came with and that they can sustain the results they achieve because they've learned so much from us is kind of the ideal outcome. Now, this week we talked about all things motivation and goal setting, which was pretty huge and kind of something that I wanted to share a bit more on. And I think we'll do that in the future as well. So I really dived into kind of how motivation works in regard to self-determination theory, understanding how intrinsic and extrinsic, internal and external motivators work, kind of why we need to have more internal intrinsic motivation to achieve the things we want, kind of why we want to achieve them, and how our goals can align with that to really facilitate that motivation. A lot of the time, people will set goals out of fear of failure or fear of rejection, or they'll set goals with the premise of a simply undefined, unmotivational, unemotional goal outcome that doesn't really provide them with any substance, and it is rather deflating and defeating when it doesn't happen. So having people understand, especially clients that I'm working with, the importance of having goals that are more sustainable, more motivating is a big one for us and something we really enjoy teaching. So having half an hour twice a month with our clients to really try and give back and give some extra info, give some extra value is just something we're really proud of. So that was definitely a big one for us this week in regards to business. We've obviously been working away on the current course that is coming up. So we are nearly, I would say, 3/4 of the way done in terms of content, and it'll just simply be updated. We'll make it pretty and then we'll record and present it. So our next course is really going to be an all-encompassing fundamentals training concept, training education, training knowledge course to teach you what you need to know to get going and be able to sustain it. And kind of what's going to put you in the best possible position to know as much as you can in the simplest possible way. So that course is something I'm really excited about, really proud of. It's really kind of 10 to 15 years of my own sport training and education history rolled into what might be 3 months, 6 months, not sure. We'll see how long it takes to complete. It's not going to be a timeline. It's going to simply be a self-paced course because there are different points that people are going to come in and actually see what's beneficial to it. You don't need to simply start at the start, but ideally it will walk you through what you need to know to really get you in the best possible position to get results. So really been nailing that one in terms of our hypertrophy content this week. That's been a main one for me, is trying to get the hypertrophy and programming content done for it because it is a bit more complex than I originally gave myself credit for. And I went a bit too ham, which seems to be a tendency that I have. So we dove into that, got that a bit more done. I've got a few more slides in there to go, which is going to be pretty exciting because once I finish that, it's all downhill from there. And I've really got to then smash out a bit more about nutrition, some sleep and recovery stuff, and then we're good to go. Now, the plan for that is to obviously have it in a very inclusive, very communal environment on the Matter Institute, which is something that we're really excited about to grow and progress and is going to be a large stay or a large part of the business and have that school running to maximize our ability to provide and serve the fitness, health, and bodybuilding / training community. Now, we've also had Scaffy up for the week. So for those of you that follow Bros with Brains, the co-host and I would say colleague and good friend, Aaron Scaffy, he's come up for the week. So we've been doing a fair bit of training, a bit of content. We've been doing a bit of education stuff as well. So we'll be continuing to work on that over the week while he's up here. That's been pretty fun. Been something pretty excited. We're going to try and work on in the future with both our podcasts is trying to get more live content, live interaction. So we'll have a live podcast episode with that coming up this week. And we'll attempt to get more quarterly interaction. So last time I was down there was about 6 months ago. We're going to try and get a lot more direct, especially now that he has a facility in Melbourne. I'm going to try and get a lot more direct content. So myself, I'll fly down there probably in July or August, and we'll start getting some content or something like that. So something we want to try and include a bit more of, just to provide a bit more value to the followers and listeners of the Bros with Brains podcast, and obviously this one as well. So that was a big part of the week. Now we've also got our my current prep. There's 2 other clients that are going through there. So we are at about 16 weeks out now, I believe, 17 weeks out now. Really coming to the end of the 17th week, so it'll be 16 tomorrow, where we're looking pretty sharp and things start to tighten up. So training volume is increasing. We'll probably add a few more sets to shoulders with a little bit more to our legs. As the main primary driver at the moment is shoulders and arms, to try and round those out before the comp date. So we'll try and drive up a bit more volume and set markers in there and really try and push that development out before we get to stage. So that's going to be our takeaway, and pretty much the same for most of my prep clients. You can never have round enough shoulders on stage. So Tom and myself will be executing that program in the coming weeks with the intention of progressing and pushing up until we get to an auto-regulated deload, which essentially is just a way of saying that we're going to train until the body wants to stop, and we'll listen to those cues and signals and kind of back off training volume for a week to go again. So with some people, it's debatable or discussable how we go about deloading and taking rest periods to reduce central nervous system fatigue. And that is accumulated over our training blocks, obviously. So one of the things we will probably try and do is either set a prerequisite time frame to stop and have a deload, which might be 4 to 5 weeks, or we might try and implement something that just reacts accordingly to how we feel. So if we're training hard enough, we're eating hard enough, we're sleeping properly, and stress is low, we may be able to get away with a lot longer before we require a deload. So to push that degree of intensity before the deload is required, before that time off is required, is something that we're going to try and figure out and see how we best respond, and kind of adjust accordingly as we need to with how training progresses. So cardio is still pretty low. We're not forcing that up too high just yet. Our steps are about 12,000 a day, which for me, being inside in a job like this, is pretty high. Previous preps and previous cuts, I've been upwards of 15 to 17,000 just on sheer work volume, not even including extra cardio. So to be at 12,000 with 4 steps is a drastic increase in NEAT for me, from what is now my norm. So roughly similar for Tom, roughly similar for my other guys. So we are trying to push up NEAT without having to pull down too much food, having going through the cut phase that we're in. So for myself, we are now at high and low days. So we've got 3 high, 4 low, which is working pretty well. I reached my lowest point of prep at 96.8 yesterday, with a refill day today and yesterday as well. So we'll now go into another 2 days off of food with a high day on Wednesdays, and then 2 days off food to eat again for another 2 days. So it's a good system. It's hard. You dig deep on the 2 days and really push the mental side of the game, because hunger kicks in. By the second day, you're ready to eat. And then obviously by the third day, you get plenty of food, and then you start all over again. So it's a bit of a driver to stimulate that pathway of fat loss, whilst also maximizing training glucose, muscle glucose retention, hydration, utilizing carbohydrates for training intensity, be able to sustain training duration and training progression without atrophying the muscle tissue too much and sort of forcing aggressive cuts. So it's definitely been a benefit to us to be able to do that. And it's something that a lot of my clients will probably go through at some point, is experience some aggressive cuts to then get to a point of easier growth or better position to grow in the future. So it's a fun experiment to always try for yourself, and a fun experiment to always try with clients to see how they respond. And it's been received pretty well for our guys and myself. So the body's responding nicely. I personally don't feel like I've ever been in a mentally better position to prep, and a less stressful environment to prep. So I'm pretty excited about that. It's usually having a job full-time, uni borderline full-time, plus training, plus life stresses. And my last prep was a shit show comparatively to where this is now in terms of mental fortitude, mental position, cognitive exhaustion, fatigue. I just all around feel better in this current position than I have before in my preps and cuts. So fingers crossed it stays that way. We always know that in preps, things don't always go as planned. So it's nice to have this period where it's not too hectic yet, and we can just taper down food as we need to, if we need to, as it comes up. So very much enjoying that and excited for that to happen. It's going to be the same thing with my clients. I'm not going to force changes just yet if it's not needed, as they will respond and we can adjust accordingly and make smarter plays as it's required. So that's really just an update this week as to what's happening with the business and what's happening with our clients. In the coming weeks, there's going to be a lot more work towards the courses. We're going to be working towards our sleep seminars, and obviously we're going to be working towards pushing overall education to clients and making sure that our 2 sessions per month for a group catch-up is encouraged for everyone so that we can actually start to really build some extra education for people there. Because I do think the coaches need to start being more responsible for their education with clients, not simply taking money for no reason. A Gen Pop client needs to know how to sustain the results, not just get them. And that's kind of where we differentiate ourselves. So if you have any questions, guys, please forward them, message them, send me a direct message on Instagram. Find the links to all of our services and the online institute in our bios on Instagram. And you can also reach out to us via the business account on Instagram as well. So if you have any questions, you have any interest or points for the podcast, please let us know and I will dive into them. Hope you're all having a fantastic weekend. I'll chat to you again next week. See you guys.